Ready, set, go.
Men. We've heard of them. They've done some stuff. What are they like? We're about to find out. The brilliant people at the YouTube channel Jubilee have a video called "Do All Men Think the Same?" I don't know if they mean this as like a genuine question. I'm pretty sure they mean it as a leading question. I would hope so, but just the fact that they decided that was a suitable question that needed asking is a fascinating starting point. And I figured that I, as a man, would you know, go through this little video. If you've never watched a Jubilee Spectrum video, and basically what they do is actually they'll explain it in the video, so that'll become pretty clear. But I just wanted to go through this, react to it, because I feel like it might spark some fascinating dialogue for us all. So let's jump right into it.
I just always got all my skincare from the females in my life.
I have a great salt scrub for you. You should get over here.
Well,
On this episode of Spectrum, we wanted to explore the topic of masculinity. In the last couple of years, there's been intense scrutiny on masculinity in America. We traveled to Chicago and partnered with Gillette and...
So that's even that sentence in itself, scrutiny of masculinity. I guess I think we're more putting in the work to identify what, like, when masculinity is okay. Now that I'm saying it out loud, I suppose scrutiny of masculinity is accurate. I suppose, you know, we're putting the idea of masculinity under scrutiny to see what things are good and what things maybe have been very, very bad for a very, very long time. So I'll allow that.
Walgreens to bring together a group of men, including NFL star, first-round pick, and former Chicago Bears football player Kyle Long.
This was another thing that I wanted to bring attention to. Not the Gillette thing necessarily, but the title of the video says, "Do All Men Think the Same?" featuring NFL player Kyle Long. Because it's a 1-2 punch of we're talking about men featuring an NFL player, featuring this person that is, of all the men, that we found a real one. The one that we found a guy that plays sports. And those ones are the manliest of the men. The manliest. Maybe that's just me being bitter. Probably a little bit of that. But we'll see how this goes. It could, maybe Kyle will make some good points.
To demonstrate that men can open up and tackle questions on topics ranging from gender roles in society, showing emotion, beauty, and even skincare. Our objective was to have an honest conversation about what it means to be a man today. This is Spectrum. Enjoy the episode. I believe sports are more masculine than the arts. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1.
Wait.
Go. All right.
what's happening?
What side is which?
Natural.
Sports are...
Oh my god.
Okay.
Well, now I'm curious.
Of course there's always two people. There always has to be, like, maybe two people that have the opposite of the obvious correct answer, just so that we can play devil's advocate here. I'm not saying that this is, like, staged or, like, written in a specific way. I'm just saying there's always two people that just are gonna try to explain their stance, even though their stance, speaking as a male artist, their stance is objectively wrong. But let's see them attempt to explain themselves.
Curious.
Yeah, I'm just
I'm
really
curious.
How am I disagreeing with the professional NFL player on sports?
Because some of the most quote unquote manly men in my life are musicians, actors, people that I relied on as an image of masculinity. So to say that the arts are less masculine than sports, for me, doesn't make sense.
My mom's a cheerleading coach. I think cheerleading is a sport. I argue with her. I'll never let her know I think cheerleading is a sport because I think it's fun to argue with her. But like, there's a certain amount of masculinity, like to do all those, right, to do the backflips and like to push the girls up in the air. So I feel like there is more masculinity that's ascribed to just sports, like than there is to more of the arts. So that's why.
The dude did not understand the question. The question is not whether masculinity is ascribed to the arts. The question is whether they think themselves that the arts or sports are more masculine than the arts. It's totally fair to say that masculinity has been predominantly ascribed to sports more so than the arts. I'd agree with that personally. But that's not what the question was. You gotta answer the question, but
Somewhat agree.
If you put blood, sweat, and tears into something, that's kind of what creates your character. Losing, getting knocked down, getting back up. I mean, learning those kind of principles at such a young age, I think that's kind of what helps create a sense of strength that kind of helps carry you into a certain sense of masculinity and manhood as you get older.
So I'm an actor. One of my
I want to hear what the actor has to say. But blood, sweat, and tears, man. These people, this man has clearly never been in a university acting class, because there's at least sweat and tears, sometimes blood, not always blood, but certainly sometimes blood. This idea that you have to fail and feel some sort of pain in order to learn and in order to grow as a person, is something that very much exists in arts. And in fact, it's, in my opinion, one of the more toxic elements of theater education right now, is this idea that if you are not like feeling real emotional pain, if you are not walking out of your acting class having shed real tears, then you weren't as productive as those who did. That's a real thing. I think the difference is just that, you know, in sports you are actually physically getting hurt and worn down. Like you're getting bruised and you're getting scrapes and possibly just straight up injured, which also does happen in the arts. But I think that's besides the point at this point. But let's hear what the actor has to say.
recent roles was Donkey in Shrek the Musical. There was blood, there was god-awful sweat because the costume.
And then the crying.
Yeah, there was crying. There was crying.
Talking about the physical aspect, and I really agree that there's physical in arts and in sports, but then there's that mental aspect. You talked about like failure, getting back up. Like even before you got that Donkey role, how many people had to get the audition for that role?
Definitely the arts.
I'm really glad that this random dude, I don't know what this other guy does for a living, but I'm so glad that he brought up the audition process, because the audition process is easily the hardest part of being an actor, I would say. The idea of sending your resume and your demo reel and your headshot off to a bunch of different places, and of those 100 places, maybe 10, maybe 20 of them get back to you, and of those 20, maybe 5 of them actually offer you an audition, and of those 5, if you're extremely lucky, actually maybe 1 give you the role. And that's your whole life. That's your career. Is just sending yourself, just firing yourself off to all of these different people and receiving this repeated rejection, and or not even necessarily rejection, because a lot of people just don't reply. A lot of places you just don't get a response, so you gotta keep moving and keep sending yourself off to other places. And it takes a lot of perseverance and a lot of stubbornness, and a lot of self-confidence, believing that you have something worth offering, regardless of how many people have said that they don't want it, believing that you have something that is worth offering and worth putting on screen or stage or wherever, to keep sending yourself off, because eventually someone's going to want you, right? That is an extremely grueling lifestyle. Not to mention the idea that this is all to make money and pay bills, so there's those extra stakes to it. Gonna keep going though.
Can be right up with their with sports.
Sports are an art too. So.
There you go.
Sure, I'll give you that. Yeah, I suppose it's, yeah. I'll allow that it's a bit of a false dichotomy there.
Locker room talk is part of being a man. 3, 2, 1, go.
Locker room talk.
I'll start it off.
So in case, just so that we're clear, I'm assuming locker room talk refers to inappropriately talking about people that we may or may not be attracted to, or just aren't huge fans of. Inappropriate masculine talk. Toxically masculine conversations.
Because I spent a lot of time in locker room. You know, this phrase, locker room talk, has taken on a life of itself. Obviously, in the past years, it's been a hot button issue. And it has changed since I was a 6-year-old and I said my first swear word. And my mom and dad said, Kyle, that's locker room talk.
But I also think about locker room talk as like sexual in nature too. Someone is gonna say it to you. Someone's gonna initiate your locker room talk.
I mean, I think growing up playing.
Okay, so this guy, I'm getting the sense, I'm gonna let him finish whatever thought he might have, but I'm getting the sense that he's saying locker room talk is part of being a man, in the sense that it's unavoidable, as in you are inevitably going to encounter it. Not necessarily that participating in locker room talk is part of being a man, because I surely hope that none of these three gentlemen are going to espouse that belief.
Sports and all that. I think it has found its own way with this new locker room talk as of 2016. And I think that's kind of switched to this weird sexual harassment.
I think by the nature of the question, though, them asking us this, it is the people that are crossing that line that we're talking about. Is that part of it? But
yeah, the bringing in the phrase locker room talk, there is a certain connotation that I think they're being specific about. I mean, I don't know. Jubilee is notoriously vague and ambivalent to almost anything, because that's kind of their whole point, is trying to bring good points to all sides, which is sometimes worth doing, other times very much not.
belittling women, not even if you're belittling women, but you're objectifying them. You're being cruel, but you're like, come on, I'm just joking around. It's a locker room. No, man, that's not what makes you a man. That's not something that should be part of that.
I think men's main role in this situation is stepping forward, setting boundaries, and still having fun within the framework of those boundaries and respecting one another.
As a black man, I looked at it as like barbershop talk, more so.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel like it's just being a safe space for men to be able to get those ideas out. So like if it's something that's like you find extremely offensive and in the confines of that safe space,
Okay, so like, is he talking about like a safe space to be wrong? Like, I guess, to a certain point.
I could say it, you could say, hey, this is why I think it's offensive. And I
Okay,
could
yeah.
say, oh, I never thought about it like that without having to take that out into the world. Realistically, out in the world, I don't think men have the, opportunity to express feelings and things like that like they can in the locker room. Like I'm sure there's locker rooms where you've cried, where you were able to have other men confront you and say, okay, so it's okay to cry in this
The same
situation, I
guys who make
understand.
fun of you are the same guys who
Yeah,
console
same way,
you.
yeah.
And that's
So
what's
it's that
important.
safe space.
Men should be the head of the household.
I'm really hoping someone's gonna go to the agree. Someone's gonna go to the somewhat agree. Someone's gonna do it. Watch them just absolutely backpedal for ages, for eons. To this day, they are still backpedaling.
3, 2, 1, go.
There it is. Here we go. Oh, half and half. What are we doing
My
here?
grandpa was a colonel in the Vietnam War fighting for the country of Laos, and if anyone needed a tank, they would talk to him. Anyone needed anything, he was the head logistics commander. And then my dad, he was like the head of a gang. So he kind of demanded respect and became the head of everything. And in turn, both of them were heads of our household. I feel like I have to be able to be the head of the household and have people rely on me when needed.
I just feel like when
being reliable and being able to provide when needed is not the same as being the head of something. Men should be the head of the household is referring to a hierarchy where the man is consistently and without any other reason at the top. I don't think that these guys realize that that's what that is.
when it comes time for deference, most of the time women prefer to defer to men.
Not true. No, not true. That's just incorrect based on, like, I don't know. Maybe it's just because of the line of work that I've chosen, but I've met a large and undeniable number of women who will absolutely take charge of the situation if allowed the chance or if given permission, or even if they're not necessarily like prompted to, they'll just take charge because they're good at it. Because leadership is not an inherently male trait. It's just not.
Leadership, and my dad was a primary breadwinner, and then my dad got laid off. Automatically, my mom became the breadwinner.
There you go.
And they just switched those roles, but like when it came time for decisions and stuff like that, she still deferred to him most of the time. And it's like we didn't miss a beat as a family. And I feel like that's what she wanted. I feel like that's what most men, or most women want from their men. It's better for the men to be in that position. I don't feel like a woman can't be.
Why is it better? Why is it better? You just said that they could interchange and nothing skipped a beat. So where is this idea of it's better for the man to be the head coming from? The answer is possibly a little bit of latent sexism. I don't know. I don't know this guy. But that's how it comes off, is that if he says in his experience that, you know, the husband or the wife would be like the head of the household and nothing would change, then why are you on the side of saying that men should be the head of the household? Why do men need to be the default?
Be in that position?
Yeah, I'm going to build on what you're talking about, CJ, because I feel like each one of us has a unique set of circumstances. And in your case, your dad was really smart in terms of his, decisions. That's why your mom probably relied on him for that stuff. And that's not to take anything away from her. But I'm over here on the disagree side because the question was, should a man be the head of the household? Verbatim, correct?
Yep.
Now, my response to that is no. There is no rules for who's the head of the household.
When I'm
I like Kyle. I like this guy. Friggin', I'm sorry that I was a little salty about them bringing in this NFL player. I'm not sorry for being a little critical of the fact that for a famous real man, they brought in an NFL player. I have my own feelings on that. But Kyle's cool. I'm glad he's in this.
So I disagree with the comment. I think men can be, but it's 2020. And if I were to tell you that I'm the head of my household, I'd be lying to you.
I think there's a leader within each one of us.
Exactly.
I don't think it has to do with whether you're a man or a woman. I know in my household, there are times that my wife leads, there's times I lead. We talk about leading up, leading down. We even let our daughter lead sometimes. My role.
That's, I'm pretty sure I'm this random, like, 25-year-old kid living in a duplex with a bunch of friends in Vancouver, and got a freaking YouTube and Twitch channel. Like, comment, and subscribe, by the way, while we're talking about it. But from what I've seen, that's kind of how marriage works. Is it's a partnership, not a hierarchy. You know, you both walked down the aisle. You both got the rings. Like, it's all pretty, it's pretty symmetrical up until the whole household running thing, where apparently suddenly the man takes charge. It's weird. Last I checked, marriage was, it takes two, as they say.
I meet my father's expectations for what it means to be a man. 3, 2,
This is a good question.
1, go.
Or a good statement to talk about.
I'm gonna sulk myself over here now, guys. Never made it. This is a high bar. I am constantly still striving, but my father has different standards than me, and I'm proud of who I am, but there's a small part of me that's just like, I wish I could hit that bar, but it's also part of me that's like, there are some parts of that bar that I'm not gonna touch.
I get that. I would not say that I empathize, because my dad and I would say I have a pretty good relationship. And I would also say that though we definitely disagree on some things, that he is pretty happy with how I've turned out. And I think the fact that he said he likes who he is, and he is meeting the bar that he has set for himself, I think that is all that matters. So I hope, obviously, you know, because we're human, if there are some people in our lives that are close to us and we haven't met their standards, that's something to work through, and that's going to be its own process. But I really hope that this guy truly takes some comfort in the fact that he has met the standards that he sets for himself, and that he is also, you know, working on himself regardless.
Expectations, as we all know, within the family can be very tough. And I know you've alluded to this a few times today, and I feel...
I'm also going to say, this is the first question, or the first, like, statement that isn't necessarily like an objective statement. It's not like a universal comment on how things should be. This is just, is this your experience? Like, do you personally meet your father's expectations of you? And I think this is a cool topic to talk about, not just like in a group setting. Well, yeah, in a group setting, in this setting, like in Jubilee, just a bunch of guys that don't know each other, but also among friends. Like, if your friends communicate that they don't feel like they're enough to their parents or their other friends, then as their friend, that is your job to give them the best validation that you can. It may not necessarily be what they are looking for. Maybe they are specifically looking for familial validation, but it's the best you can give them. And I think that's best you can do, and the best that you should do.
feel for you. I really do. Like in my heart, I just want to give you a huge hug because I have a dad who has whether he knows he's putting them on me or not, there's unrealistic expectations. The name on the back of my jersey, we share. The number I chose to wear was the same that he wore.
Wow. Yeah. I can't imagine that. I am very much not. This is an unfortunate thing for me to have paused on. But I have never had to deal with the whole thing of getting into the same career as my dad. I mean, you know, I'm trying to do some music stuff, and he's a musician, but it's not how he makes money. And so I've never felt like I've had to compare myself to him because he's like a software tester kind of guy, and like he's very, very good at what he does. He's very smart. And it's in an area that I've just never invested myself in. So this is an interesting perspective for me to hear.
Profession, the same. I will never be my dad because he was a world beater in his field. But I also, in the journey striving for his acceptance, I found myself proud of who I am. And
there you go.
That is being a man.
Yeah.
And being your own man. And
get it, Kyle.
like I really hope we can find you. If we have this conversation again, I really hope that we can have you at least on the somewhat, because I struggle with that too, and it's a real thing.
I can't think of any time in my life when my dad has ever said he's been disappointed in me. It's been nothing but encouragement. He asks for my help on things now. So like he's always telling other people how he's proud of me. He's like, yeah, I ran to your dad. He was telling me everything about you. So, and I know like it's like a lot of people like don't even have their fathers in their life. So like I appreciate it that much more.
I love that you guys all have that, talking about what negative consequences we have as men for holding it in and for not being able to voice our emotions. I think that my dad passed away because he took his own life because he didn't express emotion. It wasn't in his definition of being a man. And so because
was not ready for that. I'm fine, but oh boy, that's hefty.
Because of that, he bottled everything up to the point where I didn't know what was going on, and I was the closest individual to him. And at that point, it's just mentally and physically, emotionally not stable, and it destroys a person, no matter how manly of men. It'll destroy you from the inside.
Yeah, this whole thing of like the importance of talking about the things that affect you, I feel like there's this stigma, particularly, I guess, among men, that we can often be conditioned to be very action-oriented. You know, even when you're hanging out with friends, you're not, like, I got a group of guys will not often just hang out and talk and not do anything. We'll play video games, or we'll watch a movie, or we'll play sports. And that sort of activity is what we register as bonding and emotional time with other humans. And the unfortunate side effect of that is that we don't necessarily realize that just talking about stuff is so important, because there are so many things that affect us throughout our lives, that sort of leave their imprint on us, good and bad, that need to be talked about, that need to be expressed to other people. And like you said, if you don't take the time to express those things to another person, it will cause harm, whether physical harm or emotional harm or mental harm. Those things will manifest themselves one way or the other. And I think it is our job as human beings, not just as men, to be aware of those things and maintain our awareness of them and work on those things.
One of the few things I remember before he passed, he said to me, "I can't believe I'm such a tiger and I have a son and turns out to be a kitten."
Nice.
And they're just demoralizing words that my
Yeah.
dad would say. And those things just stick with me. So I will never put myself across that line, but I'll always work to get to somewhat disagree so that I can feel that I got to as close as I can to his bar.
It's a shame, man, because you're standing here and you're saying your words and you're standing up to it.
You're a man, dude.
You're a man. You should be over here. Yeah, man, I see you as a tiger.
Yeah, don't let that. You can use my dad if you want.
This is beautiful. I'm just this is so good. I there needs to be more of this. That is pretty much it. They do a whole thing where they ask, would you tackle Kyle Long for $1 million? And then from what I've seen, it just ends in a big old group hug. So that's nice. But I really enjoyed this. It was nice to kind of hear some thoughts and be able to like communicate things, say things that, you know, don't necessarily always come up in normal conversation. If you're watching this and you felt encouraged by this, great. I hope so. If you, like me, are not what one would consider the classic archetype of man, then from one to another, we're doing just fine. We're doing just fine. The only standard that really matters is your own. And if you're setting too high expectations for yourself, give yourself a break. You're doing your best under the circumstances. Like, take care of yourself first, and then go and do the stuff that you want to do. And then be proud of yourself. Then take the time to be proud of yourself. Say to yourself, I did the things I want to do. I did them. If I needed help, I still did them. Asking for help with things like mental health and just emotional stuff that you're going through will never make you less of a person or less of a man. It just won't. Yeah. So that is going to be the end of this video. I really hope you liked it. I haven't done something like this in a while. I don't think I've ever reacted to a YouTube video before. But if you did like this, I would love it if you click the like button. If you've got thoughts on what we just talked about today, leave them in the comments. Also, let me know if there's any other Jubilee video that you think I should react to. I think these are interesting because they present some good points and some really, really bad points that are important to address. Other than that, you can subscribe, you can ring the bell, you can follow me over on Twitch. I like to do a lot of stuff. We just started doing some audio theater this week. It's a good time. And until next time, I'll see you later.